Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's excellent to have you here as always, and thank you for watching. I have a fairly ambitious schedule for today's video, so we're going to go ahead and get to it without further delay. So first things first, I need to present some information to you guys that I picked up at a recent course, Carbine Vitals, presented by Daniel Shaw with Gun Mag Warehouse. If you want to see a full video synopsis of that, I'll have it linked in the description box down below, and there's going to be multiple references throughout today's video, so I'll do my best to get them in. That information is as follows. Inserted magazine, open chamber, drop round in to the chamber, drop the bolt. This is what is normally presented in firearms training courses as a double feed. Through several hundred hours of time behind rifles in training courses, this is generally what is presented. And in that class, Daniel said, hey, that's not a real double feed, and he's correct. This is actually a simulation of a failure to extract. Most commonly, a failure to extract caused by a split case, because normally that extractor should be locked on there, and either your extractor is broken or you have a split case and it has sheared the back half or part of the rim of the casing off and it is not coming out without tools. That is not a real double feed. And you'll notice that if I do that right there, that thing is clear. What a real double feed looks like is if I put one in and then I cheat, drop that one back in and do that. That is what a real double feed looks like. And I'll have pretty pictures there for you guys. This has to be cleared differently. You'll notice that if I just strip the thing out and rack it a whole bunch of times, that is probably just going to make that worse. If I lock the bolt to the rear, those rounds have stayed stuck. So sometimes you get lucky and the other thing will happen. My question is, you'll notice when I pull on this magazine, we have a decent chance of this whole thing coming unstuck as long as I have the magazine well oriented towards the ground. 2 rounds came out. I noticed in the class that sometimes this would happen and sometimes it would not. Some people were having better luck with it than other people. So my question was, does the magazine matter? Speaking of Gun Mag Warehouse, they forwarded me 3 of these, and I wanted them to be new and packaged so they don't appear tampered with or anything like that. M3P mags. And then C Products sent me 3 of their Duramags. These ones are all black. These Duramags are the green, the black, and my personal favorite, the blue. Now, I've gone ahead and broken into these, and I'm going to go ahead and load them with 28 rounds apiece, which is the proper denomination for AR-15 magazines. And I'm going to do 3 magazines of double feed clearance apiece, and we're going to determine whether there is a difference between auto double feed clearance between a polymer magazine and a metal magazine. And this is going to suck. The last order of business before we begin is to ensure that the firearm that we're using for today's video has not been tampered with or has not been beaten into oblivion like a lot of the guns that I use on a regular basis have been. And for that, this is a brand spanking new Delton, as in it has never been fired. I mean, probably test fired at the factory, but I have not fired this gun yet. But what's really cool about this for me is the first AR-15 that I ever owned was a Delton, and it's really rewarding for me to go full circle and work with a company that got me initiated on AR-15s. And because of that, I think that we should probably do a quick synopsis of what they've got going on in this rifle, because I know that you guys are going to ask. As previously stated, Delton has been around for some time, and they are known for producing quality rifle builds that come in at a mid-grade price point. As someone who's produced their own private line of rifles, I can say that there are really 2 ways to approach the project. You either do purpose-built, highly specialized builds, or you go after the general purpose build that is morphable. This particular rifle is one of their M-LOK 1-9s. The barrel is a lightweight 16-inch 1-9 twist barrel with a mid-length gas system. Speaking of gas system, at first glance, I thought this was just a regular old 2-set screw gas block. Turns out it's a 4-set screw gas block. It's got all the set screws, and that is encased in a 15-inch 7-sided M-LOK handguard. And the important thing about any free-floated handguard like this is that it has anti-rotation tabs. Just about everything else when it comes to free-floated handguards is optional, and this one seems to be the clamping variety. The rifle itself is very lightweight, comes in just over 6 pounds, and that is of course without the chunky EOTech on top of it. And the trigger, although a mil-spec style trigger, has been well done because it comes in just under 5 pounds on the brick. The areas of customization on ARs are as follows: the trigger, the selector, grip, the stock, and the charging handle. And what Delton has done is basically left these up to your discretion. The important thing is that this castle nut is staked. That said, one of the things that I don't think is negotiable is an enlarged trigger guard. I think that that's pretty much standard these days. And the rifle ships with my favorite magazine, which is the Duramax Speed. Now, of course, the question on everybody's mind is, does it auto? One more, just to be sure. Just to be sure. Going with yes. Yes. And what I have here is a legal pad, and we're going to do a time lapse because this is going to take probably an hour for me to do this whole test, and that would be unwatchable. So we're going to time lapse this sucker, and I'm going to record how many clearances from the magazine we receive, and then we'll do an analysis back in the air conditioning, because as you guys can probably see, it is ridiculously hot out here today. So I realized that I never described this mechanism to you guys and how it works. So if you look in there, you can see double feed, but there are two pieces of ammunition trying to occupy the same spot. And the one that is supposed to be next, but got fed, is still ever so slightly caught on the lip of that magazine. So when I relieve the tension on this magazine, or not the magazine, the bolt, sometimes just throwing that charging handle forward is enough to clear it. I was ginger with it on purpose to prevent that from happening. If I now pull on this magazine, depending on how good of a purchase it has, it's going to pull on that bottom round and then dislodge this. Now, if we set it up in such a way, we got double feed, and we're just going to, right? Now if I lock this thing to the rear and I pull on this guy, nothing happens. You'll notice nothing came out, they're both still stuck in there. There are two ways to attack this. You can either go this way, I don't suggest that, or up and in. And now those two, just ever so slightly touched, will come out. You're like, oh Kurt, just pull on the magazine and it'll be fine. Yeah, nothing happened. And where that comes from is if you've got that fake malfunction, you're going to sit here and just continue to hammer that home to the point where you're going to bend that ammunition up, and you may have a harder time getting it out, depending on how bent up it is. So I didn't do it real hard, but yeah, substantially harder to get that out. Like I'm trying not to. See, there we go. So the reason I did this video is because I don't know that it's ever been talked about whether that magazine thing is a real thing or not. So anyway, we have some data. We're going to go back to the vault and talk about that and something else related to magazines and double feeds. You guys know any supplement companies that are Pro 2A? I don't know that these people are, and I'm starting to cleanse that sort of stuff from my life. In fact, give me a second. And to the data. So I started counting each magazine that did the thing, and then I realized that, hey, it's a lot easier to count the ones that don't do the thing. So with the PMAG, we had 5 failure to clear the double feed by itself, and 1 failure to clear the double feed by itself out of the C Products magazine. So metal magazine versus polymer magazine, 5 times as much. Not a statistically significant number, just going to throw that out there. We'd probably have to do that a couple thousand times. I'm not going to do that a couple thousand times because science in that regard is going to be fairly boring. So I've got a couple additional things I wanted to cover here. First and foremost, the PMAG had 1 triple feed. And it, of course, cleared itself because there's literally no room to do anything once you got 3 pieces of ammunition in there. The C Products magazine had 1 round that stayed in the magazine. I think I got a shot of that while we were out there at the range. The other thing that I would note is when it didn't do the thing, the C Products magazine only did it on the last round, which probably means that there was not enough spring tension holding the thing into place. And the PMAG did it all the time. So there may be some kind of function with spring tension there. Regardless of magazine type, that a double feed or a triple feed is a malfunction of the magazine. It did not do what it was supposed to do, which is eject 1 round from the magazine at a time. From that uniform principle of the magazine not working properly regardless of type, there are 4 modes by which double feeds occur. The first is cleanliness, as in it's not properly maintained. The second is disrepair, as in it is broken in some way, shape, or form. The third is a user-induced one. And the fourth is what I like to call the magazine is wrong. Now, there are varying opinions on this. I am very opinionated about what constitutes a wrong magazine. For a magazine to clear its own double feed, I would say that there's evidence to support that a metal magazine is going to be better at doing that. Again, these are not statistically significant numbers, but I would say that if I had to pinpoint a root cause of that, I would say that even though they are dimensionally very similar and still able to catch on to the back of that rim, it's very slight in both cases, and there's just more flex in a polymer mag lip, feed lip, magazine lip, retention lip than on a metal magazine. And you might say, oh, well, Kurt, just use one of the Lancer magazines. Yeah, it's the best of both worlds. Metal and polymer. Yeah, I think not. I don't know if we actually learned anything in today's video, but what I would say is that I think it at least provokes some thought in the buying decisions that we make. And if that did it for you, then please sound off in the comment section down below. If you're shy and you don't want to leave a comment, I understand. There's plenty of other buttons you can push down there. And if you feel so inclined, please consider supporting the VSO Gun Channel on Patreon and Subscribestar. And you should see some people on screen right now. They're doing that very thing.